1 Corinthians 7:39 through 40. It's the last two verses of the chapter chapter we come to. Now, he's talked about people in many and various different situations. Now, he wraps this up, especially talking to the widows, to those who have lost their husband. Now, he had talked earlier about men and women, widows and widowers. He had talked about that. But especially in this society, and often in many societies, it is when a divorce happens that the woman, the widow, gets the very short shrift of everything that's going on and happening. So, what then should happen? Should the one who is now widowed then basically become separate and ascetic and all by herself? Or what should happen and take place? And so Paul brings forward, and as he's been doing, where you are with whatever gifts God gives you, remain in those gifts. Remain how the Lord places you in the many situations that happen. Verse 39. Remember, he's really ending here with the widows, to those that are in the most dire situations out of all of those who he has talked about and brought forward. A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives. He is bound. She is bound. He has said earlier, he is bound as well. So it's unfortunate sometimes when people pull a passage out here without even getting to the whole chapter. But no, either way, you are bound to that person. The reason why marriage is such an important thing to decide whom you will marry. And I'm going to say in a moment here, to marry someone in Christ, to marry someone who has faith. He goes on in 2 Corinthians as he talks about not being unequally yoked with an unbeliever. Marrying someone of the same faith is so important. And our society, our culture, our world slides it aside. Both having faith in Christ is massive and blessing in a marriage. He continues, but if her husband dies, this is the main point he's getting to the widows. She is free to be married to whom she wishes, only in the Lord. She is free to marry whomever. So if you are a widow and you are free to marry, but make sure, especially this time, and he's talking to those that they had both been pagan, and then she becomes a Christian. He does not. He has passed away. Now, as a Christian, what should we do? You can marry. No problem. Not a sin. However, marry in the Lord. Marry one who has the same faith in Jesus Christ as you do. And the blessings that can come from that are manifold. But here he just gives the statement. Yet, in my judgment, she is happier if she remains as she is. He very carefully puts in my judgment. He puts that very rightly because for some who are widowed, they choose to remain widowed. To remain single. Praise be to the Lord. For some, they choose to become remarried. Praise be to the Lord. However, as Paul is putting forward, he views then, well, at this stage, remaining where you're at, you can serve the Lord more often and in greater ways. And he ends this whole thing with this sentence. And I think that I too have the Spirit of God. He's saying at this stage in my life, and he seems to imply that he had lost his wife. It's not a definite, this is what happened, but that definitely seems to be the case taking place here. And here he says, I too have the Spirit of God. As he's talking to the widows, he is very much saying, and as all of this has happened, I believe I too have the Spirit of God, the gift of remaining single and being able to go out and do all of this that the Lord has placed, and set before me. Where God puts us, with whatever gifts it is, let us stay where the Lord puts us in our life and bless the people around us. That holy